In terms of interconnected movie universes, most people think of the Marvel Universe, or maybe the Conjuring Universe, or if you're a horror fan, maybe the Hinenlotter Universe. But we're here to talk about the biggest one of all, the Full Moon Universe, or FMU, if you will. But in order to do so, we're going to have to go through the company's entire release history and determine exactly what's connected and what's not. Before addressing the proper Full Moon universe, we have to go back a touch with a couple of other films from Charlie Band, and they are 1984's Trancers and Dungeon Master. These are important because they represented his first efforts to create a connected universe, since in 1988 there was a film called Pulse Pounders that was an anthology, and it featured follow-ups to both films. Oddly though, it was never released, although it has been restored and the segments are available to view. Also, the character of Jack Death will be important later. He did these through his company Empire, which is sort of a proto-Full Moon, but it folded in the late 80s and Band began his new venture. Full Moon technically started in 1989 with Puppet Master kicking off the label, and two movies followed in 1990 with Meridian, Kiss of the Beast, and Shadow Zone. At this point, all three movies were separate and not connected. They also switched to being called Full Moon Entertainment, and in 1990 put out several more. There was Crash and Burn, and Puppet Master 2, the first extension of this shared universe, although simply a sequel to the original. 1991 saw a big increase in output with the release of 5 movies. They included Doll Man, featuring Jack Death actor Tim Thomerson as new character Brick Bardo, The Pit and the Pendulum, adapting Poe's story, Puppet Master 3, continuing that franchise, and a new franchise called Subspecies. It also saw the return of Jack Death in Trancers 2, bringing that franchise into this company's fold. 1992 continued the imprint with 6 new films, mostly new stories. There was Demonic Toys, Dr. Mordred, which was actually originally a script for a Doctor Strange movie, Netherworld, Seed People, a sort of Body Snatchers knockoff, and Trancers 3. The final film that year begins to connect all these dots with the release of Bad Channels. It's an alien invasion flick in which the aliens shrink humans down, and the ending credits featured Brick Bardo, the very first crossover between two properties in the series. '93 saw 7 films, including Subspecies 2, Puppet Master 4, Robot Wars, which sort of bore a resemblance to the earlier Crash and Burn, as well as Stuart Jordan's Robot Jocks, but was unconnected. There was also Mandroid, a sort of superhero tale, as well as Invisible, the Chronicles of Benjamin Knight, another kind of superhero thing, and Arcade, an original sci-fi oriented film. But the big thing about '93 was Doll Man vs. Demonic Toys, the first film to connect several existing characters. It featured 2 title entities, as well as a character from Bad Channels, linking 3 separate film universes together and creating the notion that this is a full shared continuity. Each year saw an increase in production, so in 1994 there was actually 8 films released. 2 of them were the back-to-back releases of Trancers 4 and 5, and there was also Puppet Master 5, The Final Chapter. Yeah, right. Subspecies 3 also came out, and the oddball superhero stuff continued with Dark Angel, The Ascent. Then came another Lovecraft adaptation with Lurking Fear, a really weird Richard Elfman film called Shrunken Heads, and the awesome sci-fi western Oblivion. '95 only saw 1 film released as the video market was waning, so it was only the Stuart Gordon-helmed Castle Freak that year. '96 had 2 releases before changing distribution companies, and the only releases were a family film called Demon in the Bottle and Oblivion 2. So at this point, Full Moon had several series going, but not a lot of connections between them, except for the links between Doll Man, Demonic Toys, and Bad Channels. But that was about to change. After becoming Full Moon Pictures in 1996, 3 more films were released. 2 of them were Petticoat Planet and Alien Abduction Intimate Secrets, which were basically Playboy Channel style films with a sci-fi bent and lots of nudity. But Head of the Family was also unleashed. 1997 had 2 releases with The Creeps, the infamous Little People monster movie, and Hideous, with an exclamation point at the end, which featured the collector, Dr. Lorca. There was also The Vampire Journals, released outside of their distribution deal, which tied into the subspecies universe, tying those together. They started upping the output again in 1998 by releasing 4 movies, including bringing back 2 old series with Curse of the Puppet Master and Subspecies 4. Curse had a little crossover when one of the dolls from the movie Dolls showed up, even though that was not a full moon release. There was also Shrieker and Talisman, both directed by David Ducatu. 99 gave us 7 new entries, including Retro Puppet Master, and Ducatu returned with Witch House, and since there's only one H in there, I'm calling it Witch House. He also did Totem, the Killer Eye, which is, yeah.
Want some shrubs, man.
And 2 family films called The Incredible Genie and The Boy with the X-Ray Eyes, not to be confused with 1999's Kid with the X-Ray Eyes. But finally there was Blood Dolls, which is a spin-off of Head of the Family, as the main character Virgil is intended to be the son of Myron, the head from that film. There's also a character here named Mr. Mascaro, who we'll meet again later. There were 6 new films in 2000, with only 1 surprisingly being a sequel. There's the zombie flick The Dead Hate the Living, Ducatu zombie flick Prison of the Dead, Fred Olen Rey's Sideshow, Ducatu again with Voodoo Academy, Witch House 2, and of course, Killjoy. 2001 saw 4 new movies, including Witch House 3 and Vampire Resurrection, which seemed like a subspecies entry, but wasn't.
Drop the gun, do it now!
There was also Horror Vision and Demonic US. They really upped the ante in 2002 with 7 films, including Trancers 6 and Killjoy 2. There was also Speck, a real change of form, as it was a real-life crime story about Richard Speck. Jigsaw, Hell Asylum, the mockumentary Bleed, and Groom Lake, a science fiction story written and directed by William Shatner? Okay. They put out 5 in 2003, including the clip show Puppet Master The Legacy, Die Delta Die, Birthright, Dark Walker, and Giant Scorpion Tail Deadly Stingers. So this era of Full Moon has stepped away from the shared universe concept, and as you can kind of see, doesn't really even seem that interested in building franchises, with a few exceptions. There were only 2 entries in 2004, including an attempt to adapt The Island of Dr. Moreau, entitled Dr. Moreau's House of Pain, directed by Band himself. The only other film this year was called Tomb of Terror, and was just an anthology film that contained shortened versions of previously released films Dark Angel, Lurking Fear, and Talisman. In 2004, there was also the curious case of Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, which would seem to cross over these 2 universes, but it's not actually an official Full Moon release, and is considered not canon, so it would seem that you can't yet include those together. 2005 jumps things back up again with 10, yes, 10 releases, several of these including Aliens Gone Wild, Monsters Gone Wild, Horrific, When Puppets and Dolls Attack, and The Possessed, and Urban Evil were just clip shows of previous films. But there were 3 new additions that all set us up for what's coming, and the most famous, of course, is The Ginger Dead Man. But there was also Doll Graveyard, which introduced a super inoffensive character, just very inoffensive, called Ooga Booga. and Decadent Evil, which may or may not tie into Subspecies, as it may just be a remake, but it does tie into the series, making it a part of the Subspecies universe.
Chasing her ever since I was a kid. And then what you did to my father.
I smell the blood of a human.
Should be pointed out that there was also a movie called The Baker's Dozen, which I couldn't find much info about, although it appears to tie into Gingerdead Man, and could just be a repackaging. 2006 is when this all starts to come together, although there were only 2 movies released, and one of them was Petrified, a one-off mummy tale by Charles Band, but the other was Evil Bong, which really solidified this all as one universe. In it, Jack Death appears, tying into the Trancers universe, and the character of Rabbit from Trancers 2 shows up as well, even though he died in that film. Quinn from Crash and Burn shows up too, bringing that one into the greater FMU, as does Jack in the Box, bringing in the demonic toys, and by proxy, Dollman and Bad Channels. Dr. Ivan from Decadent Evil pops in, tying that film in, and I guess the Subspecies universe here too then? To cap it all off, then both the Gingerdead Man and Ooga Booga make appearances, bringing Ginger and Doll Graveyard in. So now we have a big interconnected cinematic universe, all brought together by one freaking movie. Three movies came out in 2007 with Decadent Evil 2, although Dr. Ivan has been recast, and The Haunted Casino and Dangerous Worry Dolls. Another 2 arrived in 2008 with Gingerdead Man 2 and Deadly End, and 2009 saw 3, one of which was Evil Bong 2, which again featured Rabbit, and yet another little monster movie from Band called Skullheads. The final 03 entry was Demonic Toys, Personal Demons, which featured Dr. Lorca from Hideous, which brings that entry into the FMU as well. There was 2 in 2010 with Killjoy 3 and Puppet Master Axis of Evil, technically Puppet Master 9, and 2011 had 2 more with Gingerdead Man 3, and then Evil Bong 3 The Wrath of Bong, with Rabbit returning again. 2012 actually had 6 films, including Puppet Master X, Axis Rising, Killjoy Goes to Hell, a sequel to Killer Eye for some reason called Halloween Haunt, another zombie flick called The Dead Want Women, Zombies vs. Strippers, which introduces a character named Hambo, and Devil Dolls, yet another clip show style release. 2013 gave us 4 entries, including the weird Unlucky Charms, the clip show Dead Reborn, and 2 more universe-heavy films. The first is Ooga Booga, bringing back the character from Doll Graveyard, and also brings back Hambo from Zombies vs. Strippers. The other is Gingerdead Man vs. Evil Bong, which once again has Rabbit from Trancers, but also features both Hambo and Ooga Booga. There was only 1 entry in 2014, which was Trophy Heads, and is set in a meta world and has references to Full Moon films, but they're films in this universe, so it's not connected. And 2015 only has Evil Bong 420, which again only ties in with Rabbit, Ooga, and Hambo. 2016 had 3 entries. Of course, one of them was Evil Bong High Five with Rab, Oog, and Ham again, but then there's Killjoy's Psycho Circus, which connects to Evil Bong 5, so that pulls Killjoy's continuity into the FMU as well as the universe grows. There was also Ravenwolf Towers, which is a condensed TV show into a film version, which also contains the dolls from Doll Graveyard and Mr. Mascaro from Blood Dolls. And since Doll Graveyard is connected via Ooga Booga, that brings both this and Blood Dolls in. Dr. Ivan from Decadent Evil is here too, further linking it. There's 2 in 2017, and one is a big one, and that's Puppet Master Axis Termination, and it features Dr. Ivan. So that finally pulls Puppet Master into the bigger universe, outside of PM versus DT. If you count that one, fine, then this doesn't matter. But since Band himself doesn't count it, this is the first official crossover of the puppets into the rest of it. And, there was another Evil Bong, which was called Evil Bong 666, which again features Killjoy stuff, but no new links. There's also 2018's Evil Bong 777 with those same references, the only film of that year. 2019 had Ouija's Halloween Night that has characters dressed as full moon characters, but they're Halloween costumes, so it's not necessarily in the universe. And Necropolis Legion, which is kind of a remake or possibly sequel to the 1986 Empire Pictures film Necropolis. And then, okay, things got weird in 2020, of course, because I don't think that there will ever be a timeline saying, well, in 2020 everything was business as usual. But there were 5 movies that were released, and they don't really count, do they? One of them was Corona Zombies, which was only about 10 minutes of footage shot and then just incorporates redubbed footage from Hell of the Living Dead and Zombies versus Strippers. 2 more that year, Barbie and Kendra Save the Tiger King, and Barbie and Kendra Storm Area 51, and they both do the same thing, using a touch of new footage against old movies to make something new. They're their own little trilogy, but they're not connected to the greater universe. 2020 did, however, have one film that was connected, and that's Blade the Iron Cross, which was a solo outing of the Puppet Master character. There was also Femalien Cosmic Crush, which was a sequel to a non-full moon softcore porn film called Femalien, but again, not part of the FMU. So far, 2021 has been pretty interesting, as they have definitely been dipping back into the universe with at least 2 films. They have the Ginger Weed Man, a character that spun out of the Evil Bong films, and Demonic Toys 3 Baby Oopsie, a solo outing again for a character from a group of monsters, like the Blade film. There's also a new film from Ted Nicolau called Don't Let Her In that's unconnected, another softcore film called Cassex, and finally The Resonator Miskatonic U, which is really interesting since it's sort of a remake of From Beyond, features a cameo from Herbert West, and seems to be setting up a sort of Lovecraft universe or something, but it's not connected to their previous entries. There's still some future releases promising a return to some of the franchises, like a Subspecies 5, Bride of the Head of the Family, as well as a sequel to Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl Bolorama, which wasn't a full moon feature, and then something called Hourglass, another one called The Shadow Heart Curse, and the Grim Rapper. Now, this list doesn't include entries from their offshoot imprints like Moonbeam Entertainment, the family-friendly line, Torchlight Entertainment, focusing on the soft-core stuff, Monster Island with some kaiju takes, Film Monsters, a short-lived line of the classic Universal monsters, Alchemy Entertainment, an urban-geared line, and Edge Entertainment for their, I don't know, like Tarantino knockoff films. As far as I can tell, none of these are connected to the greater Full Moon universe and are their own things. I'm also not including Puppet Master The Littlest Reich, which was sort of a remake of the original Puppet Master, or a reimagining, because it's not actually put out by Full Moon and is definitely not connected to the greater universe. So there you have it, a pretty near comprehensive walkthrough of the Full Moon release catalog and how they connect and which ones do. If I missed any, please let me know down below in the comments. Let me know if I missed any movies that they put out or any connections that I might have missed. I think I got them all, but it's pretty hard to track down. Myself, I love Full Moon movies. I really used to enjoy checking them out. I used to grab every single one of them off the video store shelf, and I used to really relish watching the video zones at the ending. I love what this company used to be. I'm not a big fan of what they've become, I kind of wish they would go back to where they began with the attention to detail and the seeming care of the filmmaking instead of the very sloppy slapdash. They seem to be very much into making a movie for stoners now, which is totally fine, but it just feels as if they're like, well, stoners don't really care about quality, so let's just make them quickly, I guess. I'm not digging it is what I'm saying. I would like to see a little bit more care put into the movies. Go ahead and make the stoner films, I'm fine with that, but just care about them. Let me know what you thought of these down below. Please share this video out there. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell if you want notifications when new videos come out. And check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines. And you can help support this channel like these guys do because they are fantastic. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.